Welcome back everyone. So as I'm sure you're aware, there was recently a huge leak that appeared on Reddit for Destiny's next big expansion called Rise of Iron, and in this video I wanted to give some of my speculation and input as to what this expansion could be about. The key word here being speculation, so do not take any of this as fact. So, quick breakdown of this image: Lord Saladin, destroyed wall, wolves, badass flaming axe. So getting into this, a lot of people seem to think that because Lord Saladin runs the Iron Banner and is featured on the cover of this image, the expansion will have a PvP focus, which is not the case. In fact, this has a lot of PvE implications. Now, originally I thought that perhaps this wall in the background is the wall that protects the last city, which, if this was the case, this could have suggested that we'd be getting an expansion based around some of the previous battles that have taken place around the city as mentioned in the Grimoire, namely the Battle of the Twilight Gap and the Battle of Six Fronts, as well as some backstory on the Iron Lords. The reason this was my first thought was because Lord Saladin was there at the Battle of the Twilight Gap and the Iron Lords were there to defend the city at the Battle of Six Fronts. Now, for those of you who haven't read the Grimoire, these two battles were essentially the Fallen's attempts at invading the city, and there's a lot of hints to these battles in game. In fact, I made a couple of lore videos about these a while back, covering these two battles. If you'd like to check them out, there'll be links in the description box below. Admittedly, the information is a little bit outdated in the video since we know a bit more about these battles now, but it gives you the general backstory. As for the Iron Lords, they were a group of guardians that protected the city during the early days and were there at the Battle of Six Fronts. As far as we know, there are 9 of them, excluding Lord Saladin, which you might recognise: Ephrodite, Gelion, Pirun, Yolda, Radagast, Silumar, Felwinter, Scory, and Timur. These are the characters which some of the Iron Banner weapons are named after. Now, there's also another group of guardians similar to the Iron Lords called the Iron Wolves, and as you can see, this cover art features wolves. Like the Iron Lords, the Iron Wolves also defended the city during dark times, although not much else is known about them other than their names. There's Ashraven, Bretamart, Collivans, Daedris, Finala, Harken, Nerwin, Tormod, and Wailerun. All names that you will recognise from the Iron Banner gear. Now, of course, there's a lot of animal imagery in Destiny, with themes of wolves featuring prominently throughout the game, so naturally this could just have been an artistic choice to make the image a lot more interesting. But the first thing that came to mind is that these wolves could be hinting at the Iron Wolves. Hence why this led me to believe that perhaps we'll be going back to experience some of the major events for ourselves and explore more of Destiny's backstory. I think it would be incredible to actually fight alongside Lord Saladin and the Iron Wolves to defend the city from the Fallen in the Battle of Six Fronts and the Twilight Gap. Just imagine it, a raid or campaign that involves us holding the line against innumerable Fallen and working to push them back. I think it would make for an amazing scene to be stood upon the walls of the city and look down upon an army of Fallen and Fallen Devil Walkers trying to breach the walls of the city. Now, these were just my first thoughts when I saw this image, but as it turns out, this wall is actually located in Old Russia, and we know this because of this logo on the wall. This is the logo of the Russian Federal Bureau of Aeronautics. If you look closely, you can actually see that this is the same section of the wall as the entrance of the Cosmodrome when you start out in the game. So now we know that this image is set in Old Russia, and the chances of this expansion being based around the Battle of the Twilight Gap and the Six Fronts are not so likely. But hopefully we'll still get to fight alongside Lord Saladin. It would actually be really cool to see an actual NPC in combat for once, especially if he's wielding a flaming battle axe like this. Now, with the Taken King, exotic swords were introduced, and they were, in my opinion, some of the greatest weapons to be added to the game. So how would Bungie top this? Well, maybe, just maybe, this image could be hinting that we'll be getting exotic battle axes. That would be epic. Now, according to Kotaku, this expansion will have a raid focused around the Fallen and will be loosely based on the original idea that Bungie had for a Fallen raid. Now, whilst this Fallen raid will be loosely based off the original idea Bungie had, it turns out that development of this raid actually started after the House of Wolves was released, according to Kotaku. Now, there's also theories that this expansion could heavily feature the House of Kings, as they are probably the most elusive house and the ones we know the least about, since we've already explored the House of Wolves and know about the other fallen houses. and it's possible the House of Kings are the reason for the destruction of the wall in the background of this image. But this is all just speculation. I'm just giving some ideas as to what this expansion could feature. None of this is fact, as I said. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I also want to thank you for the incredible support recently. It's really nice to see you guys enjoying my content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.